I'm J.D. Bindenagel, the Henry Kissinger Professor for International Security and Governance here at the University of Bonn. It's my pleasure to join the conversation today to talk about the Framework for Peace and Security in the Pacific, which is an initiative for Pacific Community for Peace and Governance of the Boston Global Forum. With that, I'd like to thank Governor Dukakis and Joe Nye and Ezra Fogel and many others who have participated, and especially for Tuan for his organization of this conversation. The background of this initiative is set for the peaceful rise of China and its relations among Asian and Pacific states in the area. Former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has explained the context in that he said, and quote, "In the last 4 decades, substantial efforts have been made to pursue interstate cooperation in the very diverse regions of East Asia and the wider Pacific. For many years after World War II, such efforts were hampered by the impact of post-colonial transitions and the impact of Cold War tensions. However, from the late 60s, substantial efforts at cooperation began to be made by states in the region. And in 4 decades since, a number of regional groupings have developed to help advance economic and political security. Of course, today, the challenge of cooperation is tested by conflicts over oil reserves of several billion barrels of natural gas and several centuries worth of competing territorial claims. The South China Sea in particular is a simmering pot of potential conflict. The underreported military development in the area where Harvard professor Ezra Fogel frames 5 questions for this Boston to develop Asian ownership of conflicting claims through the International Court of Justice. For the architecture in the Asia-Pacific region. So here is a draft agenda for comments and discussion of a framework for peace and security in the Pacific. First, prevent explosive conflicts. States have the first level responsibility to prevent explosive conflicts. And there's a high level of involvement in the regional meetings as well as efforts for institutions to take practical mechanisms for cooperation, especially in maritime capacity building and trust confidence building measures. Solutions and components of the Boston Global Forum framework of governments to address include developing deeper cooperation and collaboration. Governments are building multilateral and bilateral international structures for consultation, negotiation, and cooperation that certainly have enough power and right to judge and reinforce countries' respect for laws and conventions. States can build and are building in East Asian Summit, ASEAN regional forums, ASEAN +3, China, Japan, South Korea, and with observers from the United States, India, Australia, and New Zealand. China and Japan, South Korea could created a trilateral group to address regional issues in East and Northeast Asia. There are many issues to be addressed, including enhancing transparency in government policies, granting information rights, data protection of people, and managing jointly large marine ecosystems. Second, we should deal with the practical issues of the environment and maritime management and resource development. Participants in this global forum, Boston Global Forum, can explore ways to support ongoing efforts to integrate Asian economies in the global economy through the WTO, international financial institutions, regional economies, as well as agreeing on Trans-Pacific Partnership and rules of global governance. Cooperation among states can also improve rights, safety, and life conditions of workers and promote corporate social responsibility. Third, to develop Asian ownership of conflicting claims, including through the International Court of Justice. Governments should agree on the rule of law for resolution of disputes as a primary commitment, not use force in resolving conflicts. States should adhere to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea and implement international law and conventions about territories and skies, as well as a code of conduct and the International Convention, law on cyber and data security. Aviation law is a legal basis for aviation disputes, and settlement in this framework for peace and security in the Pacific will complete the aviation law shortcomings in that area. The United States' presence in the region, in regional security, will not undermine China's peaceful rise and will reject calls to do so. Fourth, we should seek to create new structures, as Prime Minister Rudd has talked about. Civil society can help build bilateral and multilateral frameworks for security discussions. An example here in Germany is the Munich Security Conference and the German Marshall Fund's Brussels Forum. They offer models for bringing people together, civil society, militaries, and others, to talk about structures and opportunities. The U.S. remains a Pacific power and will remain engaged in all parties in the region to play its role in maintaining peace and security. And fifth, we should diffuse emotional issues of history, especially World War II reconciliation issues. A number of states have long-standing historical differences, territorial disputes, and political rivalries, which can easily limit the degree of trust and confidence in which multilateral cooperation might be based. Examples include relations between China and Japan, of course, China and India, Thailand, and Cambodia. Some major political and strategic rivalries have had an impact on the development of regional institutions, the rival states preferring different groupings as their preferred cooperation vehicle. A notable example is that China has been particularly supportive of the ASEAN +3 process, which has a defined membership of 13 East Asian states, and among them China can expect to play and continue to play a predominant role. While Japan has favored a grouping of the wider 16-member East Asia Summit as a basis for long-term enhanced cooperation, in which 13 members are joined by India, Australia, and New Zealand. Both groups operate alongside each other with overlapping agendas, for example, in the pursuit of trade and liberalization. A track 2 effort, such as was suggested in one of our rounds, is an effort to assist in this reconciliation, especially for historical grievances, and is a precondition for regional security. Unresolved conflicts are the seeds of nationalism and new confrontation, such as those ongoing over the Senkaku, Paracel, Spratly Islands, and the Scarborough Reef. U.S. and European efforts on World War II reconciliation projects, of which I was the Special Envoy Ambassador for Holocaust issues here in Europe, have contributed to the regional peace for Europe for the last 70 years. The Boston Global Forum framework should include regional structures where bilateral disputes can be discussed, exchange programs for culture, music, and art between countries in face-to-face meetings and through the internet. In addition to young leaders, the country's leaders should prepare a white paper on each of their understanding of their historical relations and contributions to peaceful relations since 1974. The Gulf of Tonkin-Hainan agreement between China and Vietnam is one example of a common approach that can grow from shared historical narratives that can lead to better understanding. This initiative can help open dialogue and exchanges of culture in order to promote mutual understanding and follow common standards of a civilized world with the aim of containing extreme nationalism, ensuring accuracy and openness of information, ensuring the freedom of information and rights to access information of all peoples, organize dialogues, exchange among young leaders, business leaders, cultural leaders, academia, and others to promote mutual understanding and respect. Boston Global Forum can help organize a forum of young leaders. This initiative is an example of ongoing dialogues about the future region. One suggestion would be that Boston Global Forum be joined and a co-organizer of a bilateral meeting between young Vietnamese and young Chinese leaders. And even a first dialogue might be possible here at Bonn University in Germany. With that, some opening remarks and thoughts, certainly not containing all the truth, are there for us to work on, and I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you in this forum and look forward to hearing more from the program. Thank you very much.